Hi, and welcome to Speaker Secrets 2, where top experts share their best tools for confident communication, leading with the heart, and living a life of purpose. My name is Susie Q. I am your host, and today I am so honored to have Lisa DeAngelis on the show. Welcome, Lisa.
I am so happy to be here with you today, Susie.
It's really lovely to have you. So, Lisa is the director of the Center of Collaborative Leadership at UMass Boston. She has had corporate experience with companies of all sizes, from 300-person startups to 32,000-person Fortune 500 global organization. And through Dragon Firefly Coaching, LLC, Lisa helps leaders of all levels move from knowledge to wisdom to action. She works with educators, organizational leaders, and individuals to encourage them to step into their uniqueness, claim their power, and actualize their vision. Lisa has published several peer-reviewed articles on leadership, teamwork, and transformation. She's also a senior consultant of the Core Leadership Institute, a leadership development firm committed to waking up those who will wake up the many, by inspiring them to discover their purpose and equipping them to lead authentically. Wow, Lisa, you're a powerhouse. Welcome to the show.
I'm excited to be here. This is going to be fun.
Yeah, I'm so excited to have you too. And you have such a rich background in education and experience. Tell us a little bit about you and what inspired you to walk the path of leadership and uplifting others.
Oh my goodness, great question. So I guess I'll give you the short answer, which is I have had the privilege in my life of meeting people who have been able to help me see things in myself that have been, outside of my realm, outside of what I could think of as I thought about what my impact could be on the world around me. And so my hope is to be able to make this less of a rarity, right? To have more people be able to see what they're capable of and to be able to step into that potential. Such a great question. As I think about it, I have had that rare opportunity to have people in my life who see things in me that I haven't been able to see in myself. And so what I'm trying to do is to help that become less rare and help more people to be able to step into their full potential and be able to impact the world around them in a positive way.
That's so beautiful. Now, I know you have this model that you created called SOAR, and your company is Dragonfly, so there's a lot of flying and soaring happening in these themes. Can you tell us a little bit about this model that you created?
Absolutely. So it sounds easy. It's a 4-piece acronym, but there's a lot more to it. So step 1, the S, is about setting intention. So where is it that you want to be headed toward? And that's different from goal setting. So you start with intention, which is creativity and possibility. And then you move to how am I going to get there, which is the goal setting piece, which actually brings you into problem solving mind. The O is around optimizing obstacles. I hope I never ever hear overcoming obstacles again, because we can actually use our obstacles to help propel us forward. The A is around aligning your resources. So who do you need on your team to help you get to where you're trying to go? And then the R is about reaching new heights. And that's about creating and executing the plan. So that's my 4-step model.
That's really powerful, and so it's so practical too. Like, I love that it's practical. You can really take the steps to get there. And I love that you have this perspective of optimizing obstacles instead of overcoming them. That's absolutely huge. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
Sure. So, take the example of I don't have the money to do what I want to do. So people can look at that and say, it's an obstacle, and until I get the money, I can't do anything. I would rather say, great, you don't have the money right now. How can you get scrappy? How can you think about ways that you can barter, or people who you could use as resources who may not be looking for money in exchange? Or how could you pilot something that wouldn't take money? Right? So it's really just, it's a mind frame shift that says, use what you've got to your advantage.
In my coaching and teaching, I always say obstacles are just opportunities in disguise.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And problems are just possibilities.
I love that.
Yeah.
Possibilities.
Yeah. So that, it's help, like it helps reframe it.
Yes. Right. The language we use is so critically important.
Yeah. And now you really help individuals get out of their own way. What are some of the ways that you do this?
So there's a lot that we do. And the gift that I have for the folks who listen is around reframing how we talk to ourselves. Because most of the time, what gets in our way is us. Right? So it's really about becoming more aware and more present to the language we use, particularly when talking about and to ourselves. And how do we start to reframe that? Right? How do we change how we are thinking about who we are and what we're capable of? So, as an example, if I said to myself, "I am not a good speaker," it's the "I am not." So it's saying, this is ingrained in who I am, rather than saying, perhaps that speech didn't go well. It's one thing. And what could I do next time to feel more comfortable? That makes sense.
It makes total sense. And now, in that, like, let's talk about journaling. And in what ways do you use journaling as a tool in this type of work?
I think that there are a few methods that you can use, one of which is the journaling. And that's really about, how do you start to recognize when you've been able to reframe? Right? So let's start with the positive and let's build on the positive. This is muscle memory. So just like anything else, it's going to take practice. And with practice comes self-compassion. You're not going to be perfect at it. So just be okay with the fact that you're on a learning journey. So I think, first step, let's recognize where you did it, where you were able to catch yourself and reframe. Second step, let's think about where were those opportunities that you might have reframed. And do the journaling of reframing. So you're capturing both where you did it, and then you're allowing yourself to start building more muscle around how you can do it going forward.
And the written word is so powerful. And that's something that I've experienced in my own life, where it's like I've kind of had these floaty ideas, and until I actually wrote them down, that's what was like the catalyst that propelled me to be able to create that in my life. Is that something you find with your clients?
Yes. I think that it slows the mind down. And in particular, I ask my clients to do it handwritten. It's not a matter of whether I or anyone else can read it. Hopefully they can read it, right? But it slows them down and gets them to process. And there's so much research around the connection between head and hand in terms of thought and depth of learning.
What role can community play in an individual stepping into their power and purpose? And how important is that community for the success of the individual?
So a moment ago, I said that one method that we use to support this is journaling. A second method is just what you're talking about, which is network. So being able to share with those who are more invested in who you're becoming than who you've been is incredibly important. And saying to them, here's where I'm going. Can you help me stay the course? So that they can identify for you where you may not be able to see it yourself. Hey, look at the reframe. Look at how you just handled that situation. Good on you. They can also help you when you fall down and, it's sometimes hard to get back up off the ground and say, I'm going to try again. I'm going to dust myself off. So you need those people who can say, come on, you've bounced back from bigger things than this before. You've got it. right? And here's how I'm here for you. And then the third way a network really helps you is having what I call the local resources. So it's not the people who are with you for the journey for the long haul, but it's the people you need in your life right now to help you move to the next level. So it may be if you are starting a company, it may be having someone who can help you think about your brand and what your brand will mean. It could be having someone who's got technology skills and can help you think about how you want to set up your platform. Okay, so that's not someone that you're going to need forever or want for the longest term, but it's some skill or support that you need right now to get you where you're trying to go.
So surround yourself with team, like a team support.
Yeah, there's a reason they say it takes a village, right? It's not just taking a village to raise a child. It's taking a village to get all of us to step into the light.
Wow. And you're ahead of one of those villages. I love that. So I'd love to hear one of your favorite success stories.
Oh my goodness. You know, trying to think of who I'd like to share with you. Yeah. So I had the privilege of working with a senior vice president in the financial industry. This gentleman had two younger children, was really focused on career growth, right? What's my trajectory? What's the next promotion and the next promotion and the next promotion? And found himself totally adrift on what would make him happy. He'd lost the joy in his life. And so we spent some time and really got him to think about where were those places in his life where he was totally alive, where he felt that he was most impactful, where time just disappeared for him, and really got him to situate himself, to center himself in that place, right? Which gave him the opportunity to start looking at opportunities differently. It wasn't just a matter of what's the next rung on the ladder, but what's the next thing that's going to really challenge me to be my best self. And that applies to everything, right? It applied to his family, it applied to his network and his friends, and it applied to his career. So I'm happy to report 3 years later, he is a very, very engaged, highly motivated, very successful, in the purest term of successful, human being.
I love success stories. It's one of my favorite things to hear because, when you see that type of proof, then you know it's possible for you too.
Yes. Yes. Right. And sometimes in his case, it was not even having the language for what was happening. Right? I mean, I think in our first meeting, he said, I can't understand why I'm not happy. All of the outside world tells me I should be happy, and I'm not. Right. So really making that comfortable and making the space for him to start to explore what he was really feeling and how he'd gotten there. I often use the absolutely horrible analogy. I have to find a better one of the frog in the boiling water. Right? When you've been there and it just slowly turns up, you don't even notice. And so it's really taking the time to peel that back and understand what's happened and where you want to go. And how do you reconnect to that part of yourself?
And then once you've reconnected to that part of yourself and you want to start to bring that into the world, what role does communication then play?
Critically important, right? Because first you need to have the communication with yourself, the clarity with yourself as to what that purpose is, what it is you're trying to accomplish, and how you're going to get there. You then need to start socializing with those around you. Right? So that could be coworkers, that could be bosses, that could be family and friends, that can be your network. it is not a matter, and I think Brene Brown says it incredibly well, not everyone deserves to hear your story, right? So you don't need to go out and make sure everybody knows your purpose and everybody's on board. But who do you need to have understand where you're going so that they can support you along the way? And so I'm doing a program right now, and we just sat with the senior leadership team and talked about how do they begin to have those conversations with their teams so that there's transparency behind why they show up the way they show up.
Awesome. That's really impactful to be able to have the clarity and then begin to build the community around you to help bring accountability and support you stepping into that. And that kind of goes back to where you were talking about the network and how it's important to have your network so that you are held accountable, basically.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it's, there are different labels that some people put on them, right? But it's having the cheerleader who says to you, great job. And it's also having the friend who's going to kick you in the butt and say, come on, really? That's where you're going to go? And then redirect you. Because the world knows you as you've been. They don't know the essence of where you're going. And so it really does take effort, meaningful effort, to stay the course.
Okay, that really hit home. I'm really hoping everybody listening just got that people are relating to you from the past, and you get to create something new and show up differently. And that's going to take practice and commitment and responsibility. So yeah, that one just like clicked for me super huge. It's like, okay, up until now, I've been operating in this way, and this is how people see me, but that's not who I really want to be. So who do I get to be to step into that and to shift that perception of me? And it's gonna take commitment.
Absolutely. Commitment and support.
Mm-hmm.
And I would add commitment, support, and self-compassion, because you're gonna stumble. Right? None of us came out of the womb, well, we all came out perfect, but none of us came out perfect in every single thing that we could possibly be for the rest of our lives. Right? We have to try, we have to test, we have to learn, we have to explore. And all of those things take risk and trust, and being able to really stay the course. I mean, I know it's the term I keep using throughout this interview, throughout this discussion, but it's really a matter of when I'm clear, it doesn't matter how stormy the seas get. I've got a goal in mind, right? And so it may take me some twists and turns to get there, to get to my goal, but I'm still moving forward.
And what would you say in a situation where a person wants to show up in a different way that they have been before? Let's say they haven't been accountable, they're always late. And so everybody expects them to be late. And would you say, like, it would be wise to enroll those people in their lives, say, hey, I like acknowledge, like, I know that I have been chronically late our entire friendship, and I am making a new pact. Will you support me in that? Do you feel like that is an important step, like acknowledging when you're shifting your behavior and enrolling people in supporting you in that way?
Yes. And it's taking the contract one step further and having them understand how you want them to support you. Because supporting me by shaming me because I showed up late isn't support. Supporting me by, can you just send me a text 5 minutes before I'm supposed to be there to remind me? And not every time, but can you just help me get on a new path? Is really, I think, where the value comes in. being explicit, using those communication skills to articulate, what do you want? But what's the help you're asking for? Because people want to help you, but they're helping you from their frame of reference, not yours.
That's brilliant, to be really clear about how you want to be supported and what would really get you to where you want to be. That's fantastic. So I'm curious, what is what's a golden nugget that you found that you want to share with our audience that you just think is so important in the path of personal development and stepping into your purpose?
So I will give you two. The first is really about self-reflection. And I think that there's this false belief that self-reflection means that you just sit by yourself and reflect. Self-reflection also means being open to the feedback that you're hearing from others, and being able to discern what feedback is really yours and something that you want to process and do that thinking around, and what feedback is really theirs based on what's going on for them and where they are, and can stay with them. It's really not about your journey, and that's okay. I think the second piece is really self-compassion. To know that it is a journey and that you are growing every moment of every day. You and I sitting here are not the same people that we were 2 hours ago, 2 years ago, 2 decades ago. And so to understand that that composite came from everything that's happened in your life. So have a little self-compassion and allow yourself. One of the things that I talk about is, if you wouldn't say it to someone you love, why do you say it to yourself? And we do it all the time. So shifting that language and really starting to give yourself a little bit of credit and a little bit of space is very important to someone who's on a self-discovery journey.
I love those two nuggets. Thank you for the bonus. I asked for one, you gave us two. That's awesome. And I love your piece about being open to feedback, but also recognizing, like really taking it on. And I do this in my life where I take it on and I go, okay, does this feel right? Does this fit? And even when it's really hard to take, like I've been in this leadership training and I got some feedback that I was like, okay, yeah, I can see that. I can see that's how I show up for you. And I'm committed to showing up differently. And then there were times where I was like, I think that might be yours.
Absolutely.
You know, when I really take it on. I don't just go like, oh, that's you, you know, but I really consider it. So I think that's a huge piece to understand that not every reflection is going to be accurate. Like going to the circus and you go through the fun mirrors, you know, sometimes because they're being reflected back through somebody else's perception and vision, which is very helpful often. And then sometimes it's like that vision is just a little too askew and doesn't match up with something that can help you grow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, I think when I think about it, you know, I forget who it was, but someone talked about the fact that they don't leave the comments on the work that they do in social media because there. And so it really is about who knows where you're headed, who knows what it is that you are trying to accomplish, and who's giving you honest, open feedback that moves you in that direction, in your direction. Right? It's not about anybody else's path. It's about staying true to yours.
That's beautiful. And, you know, for our listeners out there, it's not always going to be easy, right? Like to walk your path, and you're going to get people that don't understand you and don't support you. And what do you feel is a good tool to have in the light of that, Lisa?
You know, I think having a core group who can support you through that, and being understanding that there are people who are in your life now who may not be in your life 5 years from now because of that journey. And it doesn't mean that they're wrong or you're wrong. You're just on different paths. And those paths may converge again at some crazy point in time in some wonderful way. But it's really about understanding and having those around you understand who you are and who you're becoming.
And that's beautiful to have a community that can support that. And so it's been so lovely having you. And I know you have a free gift for our audience. You dropped a little bit about it earlier. Can you tell us more about that?
Absolutely. This is really it's a white paper that I put together. It's super simple and easy. It's very accessible, but it's about reframing how we're thinking and getting those negative thoughts out of the way so that we can move into a more impactful way of being. So I really hope it helps folks. Would love to get your feedback if you use it, as you use it, and to be on this journey with you.
Oh, thank you so much. That's such a practical and generous gift that you can give. And I still love thinking about your analogy with or your acronym with the SOAR and how that is so practical too. So I really appreciate how you're bringing practicality to this sometimes, overwhelmingly seeming idea of stepping into one's purpose, where you're like, no, it's actually pretty practical. You can do this too. So I really appreciate your practicality around that.
Thank you. Thanks. Yeah, it can get to be pretty heady stuff. And I know that there are folks who have tried to keep it that way. Let's make it theoretical. Let's make it philosophical. And that's important context. That's important background. But if it's like an exercise routine. If you don't understand what you're doing and why you're doing it, you're not going to keep with it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's been so lovely having you on the show. Thank you so much for joining us with your wisdom and expertise.
Thank you. It was great spending time with you.
Yeah, and I want to thank our audience for tuning in. Make sure you pick up that PDF on the reframing so that you can not let those negative thoughts take you down, and you really now have a structure to be able to transform them into something that can support you. So thanks for tuning into Speaker Secrets, and it was great to have you.